Welcome to Vibration State. I'm Jason Dale. My journey goes beyond ordinary reality, so I'm seeking to ask good questions rather than just settling for good answers. And as a musician, I create music to help express what I can't fully explain. So I compose and perform all the music you hear on this podcast to help me tell you my story. In the next few episodes, I'm going to be exploring out-of-body experiences, also known as OBEs. And I'll be sharing some of my personal experiences and some music that I composed that was inspired by those experiences. In this episode, I want to tell you about one of my earliest childhood memories, which was an out-of-body experience that I had when I was just 3 or 4 years old. This would have taken place around 1980 or 81. So to give you a little background leading up to this experience, my parents had just purchased a new house, and it was built in 1979, and we either moved in at the end of 79 or at the beginning of 1980. And this was a brand new neighborhood, new development, kind of off of Interstate 25 in northern Colorado. And the house that we moved into, it was a tri-level house, and my bedroom was upstairs. So I remember one night, I'm in my bed, and I'm having a lucid dream. And I remember that I was conscious in this dream. I was controlling things. It was fun. It was exciting. Other than that, I can't really remember any details about it. But I started to kind of wake up from this dream. And so as I'm waking up, I can kind of see my bedroom from my vantage point on the bed. And my room is pretty well illuminated. I have a nightlight. I have an aquarium that's illuminated. And as I'm seeing my room, I'm feeling these vibrations flowing over my body and through my body. And I'm not startled by it. I'm not alarmed by it. It actually feels very pleasant. But I can't really move my body. And I feel the vibrations like increase in frequency. And as they're increasing in frequency, I slowly start to feel my body float up toward the ceiling. I'm not in control of it, but it feels good, and I'm just kind of going with the flow. So as I'm getting closer to the ceiling, I'm wondering, well, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen when I get to the ceiling? So when I get there, I just keep going. It's like I kind of go through the ceiling, and then everything goes dark for a few seconds. And a few seconds later, a night sky opens up in front of me, like starlit sky. And it's beautiful. And I'm kind of in awe of what I'm seeing. And then I have the thought, well, how did I get here? Where am I? And so I have the thought, well, can I look behind me and see where I came from? And so I am able to rotate my field of view 180 degrees. And when I do that, I realize that I'm approximately 15 to 20 feet above the roof of my house, above where my bedroom would be. And I can see my neighbors' houses, and we lived on a cul-de-sac, and there were some street lights, so I can see kind of what those street lights are illuminating. It's in the middle of the night. And at this point, I'm just kind of stationary. I'm just hovering in this spot. So I kind of check in with my 5 senses. Obviously, I can see. I have a field of view that's very similar to what I experience during ordinary consciousness when I'm awake. But then I realize I can't hear the low rumble of the 18-wheelers, the semi-trucks on I-25, because they would go continuously through the night, and you can always kind of hear that rumble. And I can't hear the ambient, just background noise of the neighborhood that you would expect to hear if you were outside at that time of night. But what I do kind of hear, it's not exactly like white noise, but kind of, it's like the sound of like rushing air is kind of how I would describe it. but I'm not feeling any air against my body. In fact, I'm realizing like I don't feel the cool nighttime air that I would expect to feel being out there at that time of night. So like temperature doesn't apply. And as far as like my body is concerned and just feeling my body, I feel the same vibrations that I felt when I was floating up. So I'm still feeling those vibrations like at a high frequency. I can't smell anything. Probably wouldn't be able to taste anything. But then I have the thought, well, where do I want to go from here? What do I want to do? So in my neighborhood was a clubhouse, and that clubhouse was the tallest structure in the neighborhood. I'd been there a few times with my mom, and they had a pool in the back, and I just thought, yeah, I want to go check out the clubhouse. So I slowly start to float over my next door neighbor's house, and then the house after that, and I get to the street that connects with our cul-de-sac. And so I just kind of follow along the side of one side of the street toward the club, going toward the clubhouse. And I'm hovering above street lights. Looking down, I could see the illuminated areas of the pavement and the grass in the person's front yard that would be underneath the street light. And everything looks exactly like you would expect it to look from that vantage point. And this whole experience feels very natural. So I'm keep going until I get this particular street kind of takes you to the back side of the clubhouse. When I get there, I fly up toward the top of the clubhouse, do some circles around the top. I see the pool in the back, and it's illuminated. So I decide to swoop down, do some circles around the pool, go back up to the top of the clubhouse, and then I go on the other side of the clubhouse, the front side, when there's a parking lot, and I just fly some circles around there, and then I get kind of bored. I'm having a great time, but I get bored really quickly. And so I'm thinking, well, where do I go from here? You know, I'm just a little kid, and I can't really think of anywhere to go. So I decide I want to head back to the cul-de-sac. So I follow the street back to my cul-de-sac. And when I get there, I'm just kind of looking around. And a lot of my neighbors have their porch lights on. And so I have the thought, yeah, I want to fly as close as I can to all these porch lights and like fly some circles around the cul-de-sac. So I start doing that, and I go faster and faster, as fast as I can go, and I'm going pretty fast, and I'm having a great time. But again, I get bored really quickly. So I stop, and then I'm just trying to think, like, well, what now? What can I do? And I can't think of anything, but then I'm starting to kind of question and think a lot about, like, well, how am I doing this? Is this my body? Stuff like that. And I think I was thinking too much, because I immediately, without making the decision, just shot back toward my house super fast. And the trajectory was aimed right to where my room was, to where my bed was. Next thing I know, I wake up and my body is under the sheets, under the covers. And I'm back in my room. I'm fully awake at this point, and I realize, okay, my body, I think, was under the covers the whole time, but what I just experienced was real, and I really like was my, I guess, consciousness. I wouldn't have been able to explain it at that age, but was out flying around the neighborhood. And to me, it was just, like I said, natural. So I thought that everybody experiences this. This is just normal, just like dreaming, you know? So I would go on to continue to have these experiences until about age 6. Then it all just stopped. And this was shortly before we moved into another new house in another city. And I didn't really have those kind of experiences at that house, only this one. But it wouldn't be until approximately age 30 when I would start having these euphoric out-of-body experiences again, like I did at this house when I was, like I said, between ages 3 to 6 approximately. So as an adult looking back, because my experiences at age 30 reminded me of these early childhood experiences. So I'm thinking back, like, why did they stop? Like, what happened? What was going on at that time? So when I was looking back at it, I was raised in a church. I had to go to Sunday school every Sunday and attend the main church service as well. So I was getting a lot of messages through the church. So that could be one reason or one source of sending me messages that would discourage me from having these experiences. And remember, these experiences were not something that I was consciously doing. These were just naturally occurring experiences. The other thought I had was, I remember as a kid, I was exposed to a lot of Disney movies, like the old classic, like Peter Pan, from the 1950s. I saw that several times. I remember my mom even taking me to the movie theater because I remember, like in the early 80s, there was a lot of these Disney movies from previous decades that were being shown again in the theaters. So I remember going to see like Dumbo and Bambi, and then there was Mary Poppins. A lot of these movies involved characters flying around. The one that, like I said, that sticks out to me the most is Peter Pan. Peter Pan was, flying around in the middle of the night. When I would watch that, yeah, I totally could relate to that, and I felt like, yeah, this is normal. It makes sense to me. Everybody does that. But at some point, and I can't remember where the messages were coming from exactly, but you're told as a young child, like, things like that, it's all fantasy, it's not real, that stuff doesn't really happen. And if it does, it's all just imagination. So I do remember getting those messages, and I can't remember if those are coming from Disney or if it was from the adults in my life. I can't remember. I think most children receive those type of messages at that age. It really shapes your beliefs, and beliefs are powerful, which I'll get into in another episode. But something changed how I believed my reality worked, or that this physical reality that we are experiencing. I went on to have episodes of sleep paralysis at the new house that we moved into in 1984. And those didn't start up until about age 11 or 12 approximately. Those episodes always involved some kind of dark, malevolent presence. And I couldn't see the presence. I could feel it, and in a few cases I could hear it, but I couldn't see it. And it wouldn't be until age 16 that I encounter the Hat Man, which I talked about in previous episodes, and that was something that was attached to my best friend in high school. Then I started to see some of these, I guess, malevolent entities from then all the way up until about age 30, when I started having the euphoric out-of-body experiences again. So yeah, I just wanted to share this experience. And then I'm going to share more euphoric experiences that I had as an adult and just kind of explore some of the things that I've read about other people's experiences and books such as Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe, which I could really relate to as an adult who was trying to figure out what was going on when I started having these out-of-body experiences again. So I'll get into all of that. Thank you again for joining me and hearing my story, and I will see you in the next one.